Hi, and welcome to the section on volume. Now, volume is a measure that we use in order to determine the amount of space enclosed inside a solid object. In this section, we're going to work with a few different types of those objects, the first of which is a rectangular solid. You'll also see some right circular cylinders, some cones, and some spheres. First, though, let's see how we find the volume for a rectangular solid. Now, as you can see, this solid, all of the sides are going to meet at 90-degree or right angles. And in order to find the volume, we use a formula that is V equals L times W times H. So the volume for a rectangular solid, we're finding the product of the length times the width times the height. It's also important to know when we deal with volume that the units that we use are always going to be cubed. For instance, if the length, width, and height were all in inches, we're finding the product of inches times inches times inches. Therefore, our answer would be in cubic inches. So let's take a look and see one of these examples and see how we work through it. In this example, we're going to find the volume of a rectangular solid. So let's remember our formula for volume, which is length times width times height. So in this example, we have a solid that has a length L of 10 inches, a width of 12 inches, and a height of 3 inches. So let's plug these values into our formula and see what we get. We have volume is equal to length times width times height, which is 10 times 12 times 3. This product gives us 3 times 12, which is 36, times 10, which is 360. Looking back at our example, our units are in inches, and if we multiply inches times inches times inches, our answer units are going to be inches cubed. So the volume of this rectangular solid is 360 cubic inches. Now let's move on to right circular cylinders. Okay, so for right circular cylinders, it's important to know that the base of our cylinder is a circle and the vertical sides are perpendicular to the base. Now when we have a cylinder that's like this, we can use the formula for volume of pi times the radius of the base squared times the height. So the radius is represented by r and the height is represented by h. So let's go through an example and see how this works. Let's say we need to find the volume of a right circular cylinder if the radius is equal to 2 feet and our height is equal to 8 feet. So let's just plug these values into our known formula and see what we get. So we have volume is equal to pi times our radius squared, which is 2 squared, times our height, which is 8. And let's do this multiplication. We'll use 3.14 as our value for pi. 2 squared is 4 times 8. And if we do this math here, we get an answer of 100.48. Now remember from our original instructions that our units are feet, and when we deal with volume, we need to cube those units because we have feet times feet times feet. So for our units on our final answer is feet cubed. For this cylinder with a radius at the base of 2 feet and a height of 8 feet, we get a volume of 100.48 feet cubed. So now let's go ahead and move on to our next solid, the cone. When we work with a cone, we need to know that the base of our cone is circular, which is where part of our formula comes in because we need to find the area of our base, which is pi r squared. That's the formula for area for a circle. And then we need to multiply it by h, which is our height of our cone. Now, something a little different than the past formulas we've worked with in this section is that our formula for volume for a cone involves both a fraction, 1/3, then we also have pi in there, which is a decimal, so we just have to be careful when we're doing our math. Okay, so let's try an example. Let's suppose we need to find the volume of a cone with a radius of 3.9 inches and a height of 7.1 inches. So let's go ahead and plug these values into our formula and see what we get. So let's have V is equal to 1/3 times pi, and again we're going to use 3.14. Now we need to multiply this by the radius squared, and our radius is 3.9. And then multiply this by our height, which is given at 7.1. Okay, so doing this math, let's work with this exponent here first, and we'll simplify this. 1/3 times 3.14. Now 3.9 squared gives us 15.21, and then times our 7.1. Now I'm not going to work all this out for you, just going to have to trust me on this. When we multiply all of these numbers here, including our fractions, so we have 1/3 times 3.14 times 15.21 times 7.1, that gives us an answer of 113.03. And again, in our instructions we have inches for our units, so working with volume, those are cubed. So we have an answer of 113.03 cubic inches for this cone, which again the radius had 3.9 inches and the height was 7.1 inches, using our formula for the volume of a cone. Lastly, let's talk about our final solid, which is the sphere. Okay, our final solid is the sphere. So for our volume, finding the volume of a sphere, we use the formula 4/3 times pi times r cubed. So again, it's important to note, like we did with the cone, that this formula includes both a fraction and a decimal. And then something a little different is that in this formula, we are actually going to cube the radius, whereas in the past two formulas for both the cylinder and the cone, we squared the radius. So let's not forget to do that when we work through our example. So let's move forward to our example. Let's find the volume of a sphere with a radius of 2 miles here. So our r is going to equal 2. So let's plug that value into our formula and see what we get. Volume is equal to 4/3 times pi, again we're using 3.14, times our radius cubed, so we have 2 raised to the 3rd power. So let's work with this exponent here. 4/3 times 3.14, 2 cubed gives us 8. Doing this math here gives us an answer of 33.49. Our units are miles, and so our answer's units are miles cubed. So the volume of a sphere that has a radius of 2 miles is 33.49 cubic miles. So that's it. I hope you enjoy working with the formulas for volume, and good luck!